Why, hello there. Welcome back to Even More News, the first and only news podcast. My name's Katy Stoll.
Hi, Katy. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Katy. I'm not high.
Oh, good. That's good. It's the afternoon. I'm Cody. Hi. Johnston. Name.
Johnston.
Last. Ton. Yes.
First name, Cody.
I'm not the country music singer Cody Johnson. Just so everybody knows.
Oh, by the way, Jonathan's also here, too.
Jonathan's here,
boy.
too.
By the way, happy to be here.
We're thrilled. Guys, first
Hi.
off, hi. I just need to establish for our viewers and listeners, we recorded an evergreen episode of Way Less News, the show that we're working on.
It's
that
true.
is the same format, but as a similar format, but we try to talk about as little news as possible. So news always seeps in. Anyway, that was supposed to be your 4th of July week episode, but there's a lot going on in the news, and we felt that it would be lame of us to sit this one out, especially because Jonathan's out of town next week.
That's true.
But for now, we're going to talk about the opposite of Way Less News, a lot of news.
Much more.
Much more, way more news. And speaking of working when we intended to not work, Friday, July 5th, National Workaholics Day. Oh, yeah. It says take some time off to relax, slow down a little bit, and maybe schedule a vacation for you and your family. Little last minute to schedule a vacation, but hey, guys, give it a shot. I thought National Workaholics Day would be a celebration of you working
too hard, yeah.
And so,
well,
go,
it's America,
go
you'd think
off
so.
and get it. But no, we're giving you the day off, but only to the workaholics.
And only so you can schedule a vacation for you and your family, not so you can do anything.
Right. There should be like weeks before National Workaholics Day, there should be like a national plan ahead day.
For workaholics
that recommends
Day.
Plan a vacation. So then when National Workaholics Day comes around, it's planned and you can go on that vacation. I do like how vague and non-committal the description is though. Like maybe, I don't know, slow down a little bit. Maybe schedule a vacation. Do whatever. Which, is good to do.
So when last our three heroes met, that's us, we're the three heroes.
Yeah, oh yeah, I follow.
We were reeling from the debate spectacle debacle from last week.
Actually, yeah. I was gonna we were reeling. No, we were reeling a little bit. It was real bad.
We were reeling.
Yeah, lest you think the immediate response, unless you believe some of the pundits who are saying the immediate response wasn't that bad. We were all watching like this.
Get out of here. Just
like
don't
a horror
lie.
show.
You can say it's not that bad, and that's your opinion that's wrong. Don't lie to us. Stop
the amount
lying.
of people, the spin in the
Media frenzy over this, and
Only reason people are freaking out about this is because the media reported on it. What are you talking about?
I mean,
we
just
were
full on
watching it
panic
to record
mode.
a podcast, but we were watching as Americans who,
Yeah.
voting Americans who could barely contain our grief.
We saw it. We all saw it.
I don't know what you guys have seen in your feeds and social media platforms, but for my friends that are not as political as I am, as we are, it's interesting to watch reactions and everybody being like, it doesn't matter. Don't stop saying bad things about Biden. We need him, blah, blah, blah. And then record scratch. People being like, I was wrong immediately. Whoa, I was wrong. But then other people being like, I don't care. He could be comatose and he's my president. I don't like that. We don't want a comatose president.
It's true in that, there are a lot of people who would vote for a corpse over Donald Trump. That's simply true. And that's great that that's the opponent that we have this year, somebody like that. But guess what? Some people are alive, and some people are more alert, and some people can energize voters in a way that a corpse can't.
That a corpse just
if you're
can't.
saying you vote
Literally
for a
can't.
corpse instead of Donald Trump, and you're settling on the corpse, then you're just trudging along to that voting booth, and that you don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It's the day is coming soon where we might have to do that,
but not yet. Right now is our last chance.
It's very interesting to see the sort of floodgates open about something that at least many people are saying. We've said for I don't know how many years or months.
Years.
Years. that this is a problem and will be a problem. Even as recently as when the primaries could have happened. Although, according to a lot of people in the news, we had primaries and we all settled on Joe Biden.
We did not.
Well, this is another thing too, the gaslighting and the weird lies about like, well, actually, this is brand new information, all that kind of stuff doesn't seem to be working on people as much anymore because it's so laid bare. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's equally frustrating to be like, yeah, you mean the thing that we've said for so long, and we're maligned, by the way, and told that we want Donald Trump to win for saying these things that now everybody is saying. It's frustrating that was the experience, but it's nice that maybe it's happening.
I guess it's not good. It's a lot of people being angry at each other.
I got someone we can be mad at. Joe Biden. And Donald Trump, but
yeah, just gonna put a fine point on this. You just we need fucking primaries. We need primaries. I don't care that the argument of, oh, we're gonna siphon votes away from Joe or make him look bad before he gets to the main event stage. I sat on this podcast and said it. I'll say it again. We needed to vet him on a stage under a high stakes, high pressure situation. We needed to see him perform before you put him next to Donald Trump. And also, just for fuck's sake, just in general, it should always be true that we have a primary because that's the opportunity for people to vote for the different policies, the different plans, that the future of the party, the future of our goals. And that's an opportunity for Joe Biden. Say he is, after all of that, the nominee. Well, he gets to hear what other people want, what the voters want. It is not okay for that just not to be the way that it happens.
Oh, I mean, just, yeah, I think they're like, this is a very unique circumstance where that's definitely true. But we have a whole episode about
in general,
how,
it should be
primaries
true.
are good. You don't have to, like, accept that, like, well, we'll be perceived as weak. You can just not do that. You can demonstrate that you're thriving democratic in the truest sense of the word party and celebrate democracy, and it'll be a little contentious, and that's fine because at a certain point that will all go away. You know, you can argue about like, oh, in 2016 everyone hated that, blah blah blah. Bernie campaigned for Hillary like 100 times. Like, that stuff goes away, at least at that level, pretty easily once you realize, well, we have to be a party again.
Yeah, we get it. That's, you rally behind the candidate, but we haven't had a voice in who the candidate is. Joe Biden was our option, you know, some sort of people running, but they weren't actually given a shot.
It would have been nice, especially again in the context of Donald Trump specifically. He's this this boogeyman, this threat that we also take seriously as a threat. He's bad, orange man bad, and so on and so forth. I've seen, not a whole lot, but I've seen, obviously, like, there was the laundry list of sort of excuses and reasons of like, well, he had a cold. Well, he wasn't prepared enough. Well, he was too prepared. He was tired that day. He came back from a trip 12 days earlier. I heard, or the stutter, obviously, is another excuse is coming back. That's not what was going on. But I've seen a few people say that, like, it's because, like, Donald Trump makes him mad. And like it makes him like harder to keep his stutter under control. First of all, that's not what's going on. Sorry. But also, if that's what's going on, that's bad.
It's very bad.
That he is uniquely incapable of confronting his opponent. And we'll probably get into this a little bit when talking about possible replacements for the thing that's not going to happen. Nothing ever happens. But there's an element of talking specifically to Donald Trump that might be beneficial. And if your argument is that, like, he's just so mad at his opponent that he can't speak to the people, that's bad.
It's bad also
just
in general, because it's showing like a lack of being able to control emotions
ability
or whatever.
To control your emotions, exactly.
And it's not just, Donald Trump to be worried. This is the president of the United States. This is a high stakes job, a high stress job, filled with meetings with people who are probably impossible, frustrating, difficult.
Like Hunter.
Other world leaders, like Hunter.
Who's always there now, apparently.
But okay, so Cody doesn't think anything will happen, but all the world is a Twitter
Xed.
with. No, I was saying like.
I know.
Turn
but
phrase?
sorry, that's how words work
all
now.
the world
Yeah.
is an X. Ugh, yuck!
Yeah.
Get that shit out
Sorry.
of my mouth. With the possibility that he might, hopefully, drop out, and if so, what does that look like, boys? Answer.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Well,
please tell me. What does that look like?
Well, so this is just, we'll go in order, I guess. So is he going to drop out? I mean, I said nothing ever happens. Maybe he will. He did announce today, he had like this little meeting that leaked immediately after a lot of other meetings with all these governors meeting with him and like, you know, people are going to be writing letters. There's way more people are going to be calling in his party, going to be calling for him to resign. Or at least step down for the actual election. But he did say today in a meeting that he will not be doing that. Here, the quote. We'll just read the quote. Let me say this as clearly as I probably. I'll do it for real. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me say.
That was fun, though.
Let me say this as clearly as I possibly can, as simply and straightforward as I can. I am running. No one's pushing me out. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end, and we're going to win. He also alluded to the thing he keeps saying now, and everybody keeps saying that you get knocked down, you get back up again. We love tub-thumping references in this house.
That can be his campaign song at
will
rallies.
Be. It literally will be. That's what he's going to do. And I would jump in there, Joe, and just say, you didn't get knocked down. You tripped over your old balls. You fell.
Oh, shit. He said it.
I know you got to have a narrative and stuff. You didn't get knocked down. You fell by yourself. And I think that a lot of people saw this statement and are like, "Oh, it's over." I think he still probably will drop out. Yes or no. We're not predicting anything because we'll be wrong.
I literally
Everyone's
asked
wrong
you
all
to
the
give
time.
me
I
a
know.
definitive answer.
Then
Cody,
yes, he
and
will.
This is disappointing.
He's not gonna say he will until he does. Right now he's gonna say, I'm not gonna. I'm in it to blah blah blah.
The
but
vibe
you know,
feels
time
like
will
he
pass,
has to.
and the pressure's gonna mount. And I think he needs to say this now because they don't necessarily have a plan, probably. But once they have a plan, he will say a different thing.
Yeah. The Pelosi statement, she was like, I think it's an important conversation to have, which is something she never said about Feinstein.
I mean, it's something
she didn't say that about Feinstein.
If 4 months ago she would have been like, this is the most disgusting thing you could ever say. He's the president. You're undermining. You want Trump to win. All the things that we've heard for so long.
Multiple Democratic members of Congress have.
Clyburn said he'd be like open to like a mini debate or like primary, right?
A lot of people have said they've been open to it. And of course, in private, dozens of members of Congress are like, he's got to go.
Yeah.
It might become untenable for him to stick around. He might still say no. I'm the underdog. I'll fight whatever.
Underdog.
And he'll just take us all down with him.
Congress for 30 years and vice president for 8 years and president for 4 years. Such an underdog. Get out of here, Joe.
So that brings up, I think, the coconut tree in the room, which is, if he drops out, is it automatically Kamala because she's the easiest answer? She's the vice president. She gets the war chest. She's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I guess that's the most clean cut, except that she is appallingly unpopular.
Not as appallingly unpopular as Joe Biden.
I think she's not Donald Trump and likely to survive until 2029. I think there's a lot of people that fit those two criteria, and I think because of her institutional cachet right now, having been the vice president, it might be the easiest if Biden drops out and endorses her immediately. I don't know if we get to an open convention. And I know online vibes are one thing. It is fun to see people be like, all right, screw it, screw our values, screw whatever. We will be behind it. It'll be such a relief to have Kamala and not Joe. Look, she still probably is an underdog against Trump, even though Trump is a very unpopular candidate and nobody likes him. But it might be exciting enough to...
I feel like anybody we pick is going to be an underdog at this point because we haven't had years of campaigning, of people getting normalized to the idea of this new person. We haven't allowed people to become leaders, really stars within the Democratic Party.
I've seen this a lot, and I tend to push back on this, even though there's not like a lot of test cases for it. But the idea that like there's not enough time for people to become familiar with the candidate or like get on board with them.
Sure.
And I'm not saying like you specifically. I've seen it a lot of like.
I feel attacked. I feel attacked.
Well,
I thought we were friends.
Well,
yeah, it's just getting chippy, even here on the podcast.
You too, Jonathan.
Everybody
you
just
too.
calm down
you
a
too,
little bit.
Katy. You too.
Wait. Okay, wait. I just want. Oh no, you say. I was gonna say something cute and not related.
About what?
Well, we're all wearing the same color scheme today, and I love it.
I guess we are.
We are.
You know what?
Okay.
Never mind then. No attack. This is not an attack.
Sorry,
it was,
please continue
but
with your
now
important
I realize
point.
we're wearing our team uniforms.
We
so.
are. We love it. Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of bad arguments out there for like why not to do this. And I do think that one of them is that sort of like, well, how are we gonna like? People aren't gonna get to know this person or this person. Like, how do we don't have enough time. I think that's silly for a couple of reasons. One is that not this portion of America, but much of America fell in love with the Hacktois girl in 2 days. Like, we get to know people all the time. And if they are the opponent to Donald Trump for president of the United States, it's not impossible to like, oh, you do debates, you do interviews, you like it's easy to get people on board with a person, even if they're not like super known.
I want to qualify that. I am all about it. Let's get somebody out sooner the better. Somebody in
sooner the better. Sure,
sooner the better.
Absolutely,
more time possible. I also think it's fair to acknowledge that most people it's not about necessarily the name recognition, but in general being comfortable with a candidate. How long do we have to convince people that Kamala is not a cop? Well, I don't know that we should be.
I don't know if the Democratic Party cares about
being
that.
a cop helps.
I think it helps her. And like to that point, like
I just picked up an example of something. I just meant like, or Buttigieg, that he's not boring, or that Newsom is not still married to Kimberly Guilfoyle.
But this is all stuff that like matters for the primary, for like the internal Democratic stuff. But like whoever it solidifies around, like, you know, they can try and pretend, but like MAGA is not going to be like, I'm not voting for the cop. You can't. That's untenable. Yeah. And you know they'll handle it. They'll frame it however they want. It's 30% of America. They're in that cult, and that's whatever. But like in terms of like the issues that a lot of us have with some of these candidates, I don't think that is the broad consensus, or would affect those candidates in the same way.
But you get my point. Is that the more time, the better. We're wasting time, and
we're wasting time. Absolutely.
It's less about the name recognition. It's like, yeah, a lot of people fell in love with Hacktois, but did everybody really understand the nuance? Is there time to get messaging out? At this point, it's just like a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah,
or
I also think there's an element of just like, oh, it's not Joe Biden. Who is it? Like that excitement will click with so many people. And the fact that it's like such a bizarre, rare thing to happen in elections, I think that the attention would actually help, because that's, as we know, attention is currency in a lot of these scenarios. And if you have attention on like,
money.
Look at this, and currency is money. But if you have all this attention on like, oh, new person, oh, it's not Joe Biden, oh, like all this stuff, I think that would get people excited in some way. Although I will say, so like the Kamala of it all, it is very fun online. We're all having a really good time. And I do have a cover of Wheels on the Bus that I can share if people are interested in that.
Wheels on the bus go round and round.
There are issues with Kamala, obviously, not just like the cop of it all and the various things, but, you know, historically has not been a great candidate, right? She was the first out in the primary. And part of that is probably because she like talked to Biden in, you know, early December, and they were like, well, if I win, then
she was hemorrhaging. She wasn't.
She was not performing well
at all,
she has
again my point.
And she has these clips that are very entertaining. So does Donald Trump. He says weird stuff all the time, and she is way more like lucid and intelligent than Donald Trump. Sorry,
of course she's not.
Of course, I would just say there's an element of Kamala that's like very. She has these charismatic moments where she's like a real person, you know, and taken out of context, they perform kind of goofy. But also, she was a real person with a real job. for many, many years. Before she was senator, like like she had a real job. When she was senator, a lot of times when she would like go viral, it would be for these moments in Congress where she's like grilling somebody or being a serious person. And I would just say, if people don't think about how to debate Donald Trump specifically, it's so weird. It's like, yeah, you're doing debate prep. No, you need to.
Yeah, she could be great up there with him.
But I think there's a way to contrast, and like again, this isn't like all cops are bastards except for Kamala, but like the contrast is, if it were her, is a cop against a felon. That's what the contest is. Donald Trump is a liar and a criminal, and she represents law and order. And I hope she would bring to it where it is that serious nature, where she's like, because there's this clip going around when she was running for Senate in 2016, her opponent at one of the debates at the end dabbed. Like the opponent like did her little like closing statement and she dabbed, and Kamala which just sort of like saw it and like kind of smirked and just like, and then said, clearly there's some distinctions between candidates this year. And she like continued on. And like, that's the energy of like, he's a clown, you're a serious person. And like, yeah, you've got like, the personality and stuff, but like in contrast with him, dismiss him. Like that's, it's easy to like, oh, I'm riled up, I'm so mad, I'm going to yell at him, this. No, let him be a clown and you be a serious person. You
actually made big inroads for me right now in terms of Kamala as the person,
K-Hive.
specifically because of it would be satisfying to see her on the debate stage with Donald Trump.
Yeah, maybe not. She might fumble it.
She might fumble it for everybody. But the other thing that you just unlocked for me, and I don't know, gosh, has this been happening? Maya Rudolph is a shoo-in to play Kamala on SNL.
Big 4 years for.
I don't know if she has been, but I would posit if she hasn't is because they have someone else. Well, Kamala's
no. There's another comedian actress who does a Kamala impression online, and it's incredible.
I know, but Maya Rudolph.
I know, but
you know what SNL would do? They'd be like, "Who's the celebrity who most resembles
Maya Rudolph?"
Yeah.
Maya Rudolph.
When it comes to a debate, first of all, I don't think Trump would do it. He'd be like, "She's not the candidate. Biden's the candidate. He can only lose by
that's
debating
disappointing.
her." However, I do think she would let Trump say what he's going to say, and then she would just say like, "Okay, back in reality, here's what's really going on." And she would much more eloquently, I think, do it than what we saw them. She would do it more eloquently than Joe Biden at 2 p.m.
Yes,
do it,
exactly. Yeah.
Let alone Joe Biden at 9 p.m. Eastern. What were they thinking?
Oh, I mean, honestly, like Pete's really good at that stuff in Congress, explaining stuff. Like, that's not true. In reality, this is going on. That's why Joe Biden's so uniquely bad for this exact moment.
Yes, but we should talk about some of the other names being floated here. Pete Buttigieg is one of them. Like I said last week, let's get that nerd up there. Let's see what he does.
I mean, the thing is...
I love nerds. I love nerds. I'm not making fun of them.
Well, the thing is with this conversation is that it's literally anybody.
Literally anybody, 2024.
Well, just like they're candidates that might be worse off, and, the polling would change once the party gets behind and they're in the spotlight and so on and so forth. One thing I think we should remind ourselves semi-consistently of is that most people don't like Donald Trump. He's not likable. He's really obnoxious, and you have to talk about him every fucking day when he's the president, and it sucks. Nobody likes it. Yes, there are diehard people, and there are people who are going to vote for him, and they're like, "I'll blow it up. Like nothing matters." There are people who like him and will vote for him, but most people view him unfavorably.
People are going to get mad at me for saying this, and you're right. Most people find him distasteful, and I know you're talking to me. People always one or two people frequently send messages about me saying this kind of thing, but I live in the mountains. I recently moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if people don't really like him, they're not thrilled with the Democratic Party in general and Joe Biden, and the people are pretty confused, and this is very chaotic, and I'm not positive.
But I don't think those people were like maybe
I'm talking
8
about
years
people
ago.
that voted Biden but are like kind of on the cusp. They're distressed because they don't like Donald Trump, but in their mind, like their life was
But
better.
like, what's
'cause
the?
of
But like, what
XYZ.
about the Democratic? If they voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and now they're like, I don't
Against
know about
Donald
the.
Trump.
I don't know about
Against
What
the.
has
Donald
happened
Trump.
since that
What-
they're like,
right, that's what I'm
out.
I mean,
confused
all
about.
the things, guys. Come on, the things that are spin that
I don't know
I
what
can
that-
argue back with: inflation, wars, spending on Ukraine and Israel, and like I mean, these are conversations. Okay, Nobody's-
I don't
I'm going to
believe.
push back a little bit.
That's
Katie.
fine. This is all
Are
anecdotal.
Is it more because they're anti-trans, perhaps? Or
No, I mean,
some
I'm
sort
literally-
of culture
thing.
war thing?
I understand. No,
Because
no.
inflation makes sense. I can't imagine.
hear me when I say no.
Okay.
I mean, there are people, of course. I can think of plenty that, like, sure, yeah, there's that. But I'm talking about people that genuinely feel distressed. They voted against Trump for Biden and are really turned off of Biden and the Democrats in general. It might be enough to get a new candidate in. I'm saying let's not take it for granted. Like, I'm responding specifically to Cody saying the vast majority of the country doesn't like Donald Trump, which is probably true.
I think that's still true, though, is the thing.
But I don't know that that's enough reason for them to not vote for him
Well,
again.
like, I believe all this stuff is still a risk. Switching is still a risk. Like, we don't know that it would be better. We don't know that people
No,
would
yeah,
be more
no.
comfortable.
Biden could
I
win.
think so.
I don't know.
I think Biden's going to lose, and that Gretchen Whitmer or Pritzker or Kamala would have a better shot. I think the bigger risk is doing that, and then the Republicans are like, we're going to just sue to keep them off the ballot, and the Supreme Court will be like, yep, they're not on the ballot. So
Yeah.
you better do a write-in. Biden's going to be on the ballot, and so the Democrats can decide to do a write-in campaign for Kamala, and it's a complete disaster. I think that's a likelihood.
Yeah, there are so many complications there that the Republicans would take advantage of.
But
and
I
they have
think
the court, so
if that's not an issue, if let's say whoever it is can get on the ballot, and then that person stops sending weapons to Israel, and we get 40,000 people in Michigan back, that gives us a way better chance than anything we're doing with Biden right now. And I think it is independent of some of those things you're talking about, Katie, which I don't.
Definitely. I'm not,
doubt.
and I'm not discounting what you're saying. It's true, but I do push back slightly on the narrative that everybody, like, it's not binary like that. There are a lot of people in this gray area that are not transphobic. They might not understand it as much, but I mean, I really would love for people to believe me and hear me when I say that I have a lot of really great conversations where people that are confused about trans issues talk to me about it. And they'll be like, well, can I ask you this? And they'll be like, that makes sense. A few people that I would say were on one spectrum and over the course of my time here for conversations have said, you know what? I don't have a problem with it. You know what? You're right. I wouldn't mind sharing a bathroom with a trans woman.
they should
Like,
vote against Donald
but
Trump
for
again.
real.
Because he's gonna
But it's
do the opposite
ingrained
of
in them
that.
the Democratic Party is a mess and they're economically feeling the pinch, and I can scream it from the rooftops that's not
No, the prices
Joe
thing
Biden
makes
didn't
sense
cause
to me.
your, but it's like
I mean,
people
I
Joe
feel like
Biden
it's
literally
chaotic,
posted today
disarray.
about how prices are too high. So,
But like, I believe that. I think
But
I've
there
said
are,
that before
of
here.
course,
is
there are
that, like,
people that are transphobic and all this shit. But I'm saying that there are more people. I'm pleasantly surprised by how many more people are just kind of confused.
But no, I think I get that. It's like prices were lower 4 years ago. They're always lower 4 years ago, but they were
And
way lower 4
We've
years
been
ago.
in wars most of the time that Biden's in office.
he pulled
You
out
know?
of one of them.
And we're not like
And
in
that
We're not
was
in
the
the
messy.
war.
Ukraine. We
I
get
know,
weapons.
but we're spending
and
a lot
Donald
of
Trump's
money.
going to try to flatten Gaza.
I know. I'm not arguing with
Katie,
it. But
why
that's
are you
what
voting
it
for
looks
Donald
like.
Trump? I know we've
Everybody
been-
hates me and thinks that I'm a Trump apologist for saying this.
No,
It's
we
just
don't
the
think
thing
that.
I
just-
want people to accept. And like,
I'm not. Yeah, I don't doubt that there are people in that camp. I just think that ultimately, more people hate Donald Trump than love him, and recalibrating the Democratic Party to seem like they have a coherent spokesperson would do hopefully do wonders for that problem.
Absolutely.
Even Kamala wanted to call for a ceasefire like way earlier.
Totally.
And seems to be.
We've got so much more that we should talk about. Okay, so I guess it doesn't matter. Anybody with a pulse sounds good to us. But names floated. Buttigieg, Gretchen Whitmer. That could be a very smart choice.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people even with the Kamala doll to be like, well, a woman can't win or a black woman can't win. First of all, black man won twice. Fuck off.
This country is very sexist.
Country is very sexist, but at the same time, there's a very important issue focused on women going on in this country, and it might be helpful actually to have a woman vocally standing
Absolutely.
for that,
I
right?
mean, I would love it. I would love to get a woman up there as our official. Like, this is all like a running gun Hail Mary moment for us, no matter what. Let's put a woman in there.
Also,
I'm all about it.
Donald, I mean, 2016, I guess, was not the right time, but it might be the right time to give people the choice of Donald Trump or a woman.
A woman.
And hope that even just that is enough. I don't know. I guess I'm also running on just sort of like a general optimism.
That's good.
You know, and we've talked about this. Trump, things he says now versus things he said 8 years ago, they're worse now. He's worse now. He's saying a lot of things that are worse than what he used to say. And I just have this, I guess, naive optimism of like, surely now he will be rejected. Like, it is a duty of us to simply reject him. But
especially now
I
that
like
he's
your
like,
optimism.
I might kill you if I'm elected, and now I can.
And now he can.
So let's talk about that. There's all sorts of stuff that you put in this doc that are interesting that we've brushed over, like whether or not Republicans will even allow that person to be on the ballot. But those are all theoretical. One thing that's not theoretical is what the Supreme Court has been up to this week.
Good stuff. Dying?
Oh, only 0 of them died, unfortunately.
No, they're going to save that for the next president. So I guess we should start with the immunity of it all.
So yeah, in a 6-3 ruling along party lines, the conservative Supreme Court says presidents have presumptive immunity from prosecution for official actions taken while they are president. So this means that Trump is off the hook for any of that stuff he did while he was president. So the perfect phone call, that's within his official duties. The slate of false electors, you can make the argument, was part of his official duties. And now everyone seems to agree. I haven't seen anyone say that's not what this ruling says, that the president could order SEAL Team 6 to kill a political rival, and there's nothing that can be done about it. I keep looking for, okay, but we could still impeach him in theory, right? You just couldn't prosecute him criminally for those things. You know, and this opinion also gives the president a lot of immunity for things in what's called the outer perimeter of their authority. You know, even though, okay, he's not... he could give the Department of Justice an illegal order, but it's kind of part of his job to give orders to the Department of Justice, right? So
right.
You could let that slide, and even if it's an unofficial act, you can't use his motive, and you'd have to prove, the government would have to prove that the president was not acting in an official capacity, and you can't use any presidential documents and stuff to do that. So it's
even
such a high bar that you
was...
basically can't ever prosecute a president, even if it's unofficial.
Joe Biden ordered Trump's assassination.
Don't worry, he already said he's not going to do that. He said he's not going to do any of it.
Not going to pack the court,
theory,
not going to,
If we had any expectation that this would also be applied to Democratic presidents, which it won't, but if it was, yes, in theory, he could order some special elite force from the Army or Navy to assassinate Donald Trump, and Biden couldn't be criminally prosecuted for it. I imagine, if that were to happen, which it won't, that the Supreme Court would find a way to say, well, in this case, kill Joe Biden for it.
So you're not allowed, looking at this one, you're not allowed to look into a president's motives?
No, because you can't know whether it's official or unofficial. The president has like immunity, and all of the internal calls and documents and stuff are shielded from being evidence, according to this.
This
No,
is
this
But like
one,
the elector, but
This
the
is
the elector
astounding.
stuff seems. I thought there was even a quote from Coney Barrett about.
well, Coney Barrett didn't join. She joined in the 6-3, but then didn't concur with that part. She kind of left a little sliver where she's like, I think
Right, because the
false slate of
electors
elector
are
thing-
like campaign stuff. That's like
Yes.
campaign related, not like official business of the president. It's not the president's like official business to campaign for president.
And the rest of them were like, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you
I
so
mean-
much, Amy. Thank you so much.
But like,
It's like
goodbye.
Yeah.
it's not as if this hasn't sort of been true to a degree, and practically speaking. But when you make this an official thing, like no, president has immunity, you're just opening the floodgates for what could be. We're just setting the stage for somebody to use this
Yeah.
to their advantage.
Like, it's all theoretical because every president has
Of course.
committed crimes and none of them have ever been prosecuted for it. So this has been basically true always.
Yeah. Even though
But-
the phrase no one's above the law.
But like, if all of this stuff, if this had been a Democrat that denied the election, if false electors, all the things that Trump had done, if he was a Democrat, I don't see a world where Republicans would be like, yes, now let's give presidential immunity to the guy that we
Oh,
hate.
sure. They'd already be
there's
doing
not
the
a world.
Cersei
Like,
Lannister
this
No,
is-
they
walk.
want
This
they want a
is
king,
the-
and they know that.
But then
if they
they
get
rail
one,
against, they call them the fascist Democrats, the fascist
Yeah,
left.
because they're frauds and liars, and they're
they
fascists.
believe it. Some of them
they
believe
have to
it.
be inconsistent and lie and pretend like they believe in freedom when what they want is a king. Some of them say this out loud now, but
A lot
they
of
want,
people say it out loud. They're like, we just need a dictator.
yeah,
to
they
clean
want
shit
a
up.
king, and they trust that the current Democratic president won't exercise those powers because obviously they won't. We can't do anything. It's the people will get mad. They are, I think, are confident that, oh, we do this now, then, well, maybe the court can stop Joe Biden from or whoever from becoming the president and get the next guy, which is gonna be Trump, and then it's all done. Then the country's over.
Yeah, I try not to be like a doomer about this stuff, but I don't if Trump wins and he's alive in 2028, I do not see I don't see a future where he allows there to be an election
No,
in
of course,
2028.
no.
You
He
No.
think?
just says, he says there's no, once he realizes that he can't really, he either gets the Supreme Court to interpret the 22nd, whatever amendment it is, he gets them to rule that it just meant consecutive. You can do more than two or whatever. And if he
You
can't
think he'll
do that,
want it?
he'll just say, it's been brought to my attention that my opponents are in league with Antifa to cause violence around the election. And because of that, I am canceling the 2028 election temporarily. And then there's just never an election
Well, I mean,
again.
you hear people that live in other places with strongman authoritarian dictators, and they're like, "This is how they get you.
Yeah,
this is
it's
how
not
it happens.
hard.
This is the playbook." No,
Yeah.
It's
You have a
it's
control-
a
Seeing
bit of
how
a slow
not hard
creep,
it
and
is.
then it's there.
I think they do enough voting rights laws that they just ensure that Democrats can't ever win again, and then they have
Exactly.
this, oh, we're mad at you, and they let them do it, and it just never matters.
And then Democrats are like, well, you cheated, you lied and stuff. Like, that's you're just saying what we say. It's it
I
turns
guess
into
it's definitely a possibility, and I definitely hear everybody's and share the concern about what could happen, especially with Donald Trump. I would say that there's a world where he doesn't really want to be president, like we've established, and at that point he'll be totally immune, and all of his crimes will be done, and he will be ready to just go make money. Maybe.
I don't think
You don't
that's how his
think?
brain works necessarily,
Yeah,
especially
damn it.
anymore. Because he's old and dying. But also he's a narcissist and he wants to be the guy who's the president forever, right? Like he would want that. I mean, it's not the same thing, but Biden just being like, I'm not going to step down. We're doing this. And like, you all said I couldn't do it, but I did it. I'm the only guy to beat Trump. Fuck off. You're just one man. It's the same impulse of like the legacy and like the needing to prove yourself and the needing to be this thing. And I don't know if he would be like, I'll step down, or like, I'm not going to run again. I'm just going to go enjoy my Mar-a-Lago life. He could be the president and just live at Mar-a-Lago if he wants. Like, at that point, he can do whatever he wants, not even be the president. But he would be the president, right?
Like, they basically have all the levers of power to where it does not matter if they have the House or the Senate, if they have the courts.
And if they gut the all the like administrative and bureaucratic positions,
they
like
the
they put on,
bureaucracy, agencies can't do anything anymore. That's
and they're probably gonna get the Congress in this year. Like, math's not looking great there.
In another stunning, surprising 6-3 ruling, the court struck down Chevron versus the National Resources Defense Council, which is a landmark 1984 ruling, which allowed government agencies to make rules within that agency's purview if Congress hadn't explicitly made a law about it. And this said that judges had to defer to the expertise of the agency in question if there was some dispute over language. This new ruling says they don't have to do that agencies don't have any special expertise, even if they're like scientists at the EPA.
Even if that's their expertise?
Yeah, that judges get to decide what the language means, and this basically means that agencies don't have to, that they can't pass rules or they can pass a rule, but then they'll get sued, and if it's the wrong judge looking at it, they'll say, yeah, I don't like this rule, and I dispute this language, and it's thrown out. It makes it so it guts the regulatory administration.
Yeah, and like people with actual expertise in these issues specifically. Like,
I mean, the conservatives have wanted this for decades because they don't want
regulations.
They don't want any president, let alone a Democratic president, telling them where they can pollute, what they can do, what banks can do. You know, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau now won't be able to do some of the stuff that they do because, like, I don't know some of the specifics, but like, right, they said, oh, we're going to get rid of junk fees and overdraft fees. Well, maybe now that's off the table. If a judge says, well, there's no law specifically about this.
Right. It not only stops people who know what they're talking about, talking to like a judge who's like holding up a snowball and be like, well, that's cooling. Global warming isn't whatever. That wasn't a judge, but still, it's the same thing.
No, it's Judge Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, God. But it not only makes that difficult, and we'll have judgment passed down that don't necessarily even understand what they're talking about, but also it gums up any sort of like movement or progress because it's going, like you're saying, like it's going to lead to all these lawsuits, which puts a pause on everything anyway and draws it out. So like their whole goal generally, and like look at Project 2025. Look at just like Trump's general incompetence and inability to govern and everything the GOP does. It's all just sort of, we want there to be no like departments in the government. We want like 5 guys to run the government. And then you can do whatever. People be damned.
It just makes my head spin because I also understand the reason why these agencies exist and why this is bad and bad for our future, bad for everyday citizens, for consumers, for our children, for the environment.
They always, I think Alito has said this a couple times when they do stuff like this. They're like, look, we're not saying these rules can't exist. Congress could simply pass a law because that's what Congress does all the time. And the map is gerrymandered in such a way where the side that wants these rules could easily win and pass all of these laws. And then, of course, even when Democrats do have the presidency in the House and the Senate, they only do they do this much. They do a little bit of it.
Well,
yeah,
this is bad.
I feel like I feel like I came in hotter as this is bad than I intended to. But
it's not good.
Bad.
No, not
and
good.
In the
it's been a very depressing week.
It's all this stuff that's like, again, these sort of like this slow chipping away. You see more and more every day, like this, like these Heritage Foundation freaks, like talking about like the violence that they actually want, And they want to repeal like the Civil Rights Act and like all these like this progress, this idea of like basically using the phrase like we want to repeal the 20th century, everything that happened there, and that's a lot of stuff, and they're not pretending anymore, and seeing all this stuff sort of like slowly build up and chip away, and then you got the 6-3 situation, and this, sorry to say, old guy trying to run for re-election, and the other guy being Trump is just I don't know, it's not great, and there's no way to predict how things will go because who knows.
Which is
so
I thought you guys did. I
Kamala.
thought that's why we gathered here today.
Well, that's why we're having so much fun saying let's fall out of the coconut tree into the proper context and get on the K-Hive. Why not?
Unburdened
Maybe
by what
that'll
has been.
Okay, you know what, guys? I think that this might be the right time for Cody to play Wheels on the Bus.
I've been
Yeah.
practicing all week.
Okay, I
The
think
Kamala
this is
version,
I've
right?
been learning
let's,
the real version.
Oh, the actual
The
Wheels on
real
the Bus.
version.
Okay.
It's the real version. Wheels on the bus. I need to hear myself. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. The doors on the bus
It's not working.
open and shut. Open and shut. Open and shut. The doors on the bus open and shut. All through the town. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Isn't it working?
I would
Perfect.
love to hear Kamala sing the
Perfect.
national anthem. I want to hear what that is.
All right, I think we've done it. We did it. We're here. We've arrived at the end. We've talked about it. We're going to miss you next week, Jonathan, but have fun. You know?
Well, hopefully it's a slow news week, Nothing's going to happen.
Hopefully.
Nothing to
Nothing
talk
ever
What could
about.
happens.
possibly happen? What could possibly happen, Jonathan?
I'll be
That's what we
back
said
in
about
2
this
weeks,
week.
and it'll be like...
Wait, 2 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks
Oh, wait,
from
yeah.
today,
From now.
I'll be back.
For the people.
I was
the-
like, oh no, Jonathan. I wrote this down wrong.
No, it'll be like, so what do you all think of President Hawk Tua Girl now? Okay, well, I didn't expect that, but here we are.
So
We
be
haven't
it.
floated that name
So
yet,
be
but
it.
all options are on the table. She knows how to get a job done. A specific kind of job, but
Still.
okay. That feels like a good note to leave on. Hey guys,
Hi.
it's been I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you out there on the interwebs. Been a rough week. It's hard to celebrate our country, but I hope you enjoy your day off. You're going to be hearing this after. I hope you enjoyed your day off. And please know that we do love you very much.
Much.
And I mean it much.
Wheels on the bus go round and round.